What do you think will be the tipping point by which we can restructure our education system and the way that we think about educating young people to create a worldwide community of free thinkers?
Thanks for that question. I was very lucky. I went to a pretty exceptional international school in Venezuela for high school. Nice. Escuela Campo Alegre. And for elementary school, I went to a Montessori school, which again is all about building the curriculum around the kids' passions and interests. A lot of successful people went to Montessori school. Maybe there's something to that. My mother is probably the greatest teacher alive. Not that I'm biased. I was blessed to have her actually as my literature teacher, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And all my friends, loved her and loved me because I was Linda's son. It was pretty groovy. So I was very lucky, but I'm privy to the fact that not everybody is that lucky. Some friends of mine out of Dubai, of all places, who run innovation for the GEMS International Schools, have launched a new company. I think it might be a nonprofit. It's called the Awe Academy, or Awe Academy. Yeah, and they're working on creating a curriculum that uses non-traditional modes of education, such as cosmic wonder and curiosity, and they have all the buzzwords. They're using a lot of shots of awe in the curriculum. They're working with Singularity University to teach kids about exponential thinking so that they can dream bigger than ever and back up those dreams with exponential technologies. So it kind of ticks all those boxes. So that's our little grain in the sand. I did some videos for them. I'm kind of an informal advisor. So I would point you to Awe Academy or Awe Academy and see what they're up to. I also imagine people like Ken Robinson have a lot of interesting initiatives in that space. If it was up to me, I feel like when I was in high school, I used to host these salons in my house on Friday nights. And full disclosure, we got stoned and watched videos. No alcohol. But the point of these sessions, I learned very quickly in following the tradition of Charles Baudelaire and his hashish parties, was that if you bring a bunch of intellectuals and you create a sort of sunken living room environment where everybody is forced to face each other, and then you get them mildly intoxicated, very interesting ideas start to flow, very interesting exchanges start to be had. You start to notice quirks and details and nuances of conversation that only happen when you're present and facing each other and slightly altered. And I remember that after we did that first phase one, we'd take everybody upstairs to my home theater room, which I was really neurotic about as a kid. And I had a special chair with something installed in it called a tactile sound transducer that would turn watts from the amp of music into vibrations on the chair. And then I had the speakers, and then I'd have like all these scenes from movies all ready. And of course, I'd make sure that my friends were baked as hell. And then I'd be like, sit there, and I'm gonna show you this scene. And you may think, well, what the hell, this stupid teenage stoner? I was giving them profound educational experiences. Because I was cracking them open and giving them awe. And awe awakens curiosity, awe increases empathy and compassion, awe boosts creativity, awe acts as an anti-inflammatory, and again, you stay in the halo after the fact. So I'm not advocating giving students pot, but I'm saying the pot is a metaphor, a stand-in for modules and or techniques and technologies that can alter the consciousness of the kid. Maybe it's just moving around. Maybe get up from the fucking desk and dance until they're in an altered state, Maybe it's teaching them meditation in class. This is...
That was my second question, yeah. So it's cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hola, Jason, ¿cómo estás?
Hola.
My question is about this advice, very common, that you should get rid of technology from time to time, avoid technology, get an interruption. Do you think technology is part of, or a source or a contributor to our anxiety or depression of this modern age?
Look, I would actually say it's not technology per se, it's bad practices. We kind of need a set of best practices for everything. It's like we don't get on a plane unless the pilot is really well trained. I also have a broader definition of technology. I know what you're asking. You're asking if like our incessant use of smartphones is distracting us from the present and so on and so forth. But like you asking me a question is employing a wireless technology known as language, where you encode the contents of your consciousness in a symbolic language. You transmit it through time and space. I receive it, I decipher it. Like, it's a really good technology for the most part when used correctly. But language can also be weaponized, right? And language can be used for hate speech propaganda. Language and eloquence were used by a human cancer known as Hugo Chavez to cripple Venezuela. That guy was an elegant piece of shit, but he was an elegant speaker. You know, and so language can be weaponized. All technologies can be weaponized. All technologies are a double-edged sword, right? You can use fire to cook your food. Without cooking, human beings wouldn't have evolved past stage one. We used to spend all our time chewing. Once we could cook our food, we could stay full for long enough to develop arts and crafts and culture. So without cooking, there wouldn't be us. Without fire, there wouldn't be us. But fire also burns the villages. So I guess the answer to your question is, yeah, technology can be used in piss-poor ways, but without social media, none of you would know about my videos, none of us would be here having this conversation, thousands of people wouldn't have gone inspired by the work that I've done and the work that so many others have done. So the answer is, and always will be, it's a double-edged sword. These are just amplifiers. It's how we use it that counts, you know? Thank you.
One thing I've seen that you've been able to do was kind of make an objective formula about, you know, how to obtain it and even bring it about in yourself almost on demand. Have you ever put yourself, or maybe somebody with similar qualities like yourself, into an MRI machine or some other form of objective measurement to see what all looks like inside?
I haven't. I would love to do that. Most of my experiences in MRI machines have been fueled by hypochondriacal panic. Thankfully, everything's okay, but...
Same.
Yeah. But no, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What if they're like, oh shit, there's actually a third eye opening. We can see it in the scanner. No, it would be great, bro. I haven't done it. I'd be very curious to. They have done that with freestyle rappers and comparing them to rappers who were reciting memorized lyrics.
How do you rap inside an MRI machine?
I don't know. They just lying down and they were like, that's right, here we go. I don't know. But what was interesting is that those that were improvising, so that they were in flow, maybe not in awe, but like a precursor to awe is definitely flow.
Just a tip.
Yeah, just a tip. Just a tip. Just a tip. Don't worry. But they found that the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is just science jargon for the inner critic, shuts down. So what's interesting is during flow, you don't use more of your brain, you use less but more efficiently, it seems, or in a way that serves us better. The aperture focuses, as Jamie Wheel says. And so, isn't that interesting, you know, that it's less, it's stuff that shuts down that results in these flow states.
What do you believe in about how people say sometimes everything happens for a reason? Because that's something I struggle with myself, as well as a lot of people I know, friends, relatives. Because I know when I look at things sometimes in the moment, I'm like, this doesn't make sense, and I get anxiety. But then a lot of things that I look back on, I'm like, wow, it all connects. But then again, I have OCD, so I'm like, is it connecting because I constantly do that?
Because you like patterns.
Yeah, routine patterns, so I don't know which to really believe, but I know you speak a lot about science.
Yeah.
So is it a combination, or what do you think?
I think that it's like glasses full or glasses empty, depending on your filters and your lenses. You see with your lenses, you see through your lenses, but you don't see the lenses themselves. If you saw the lenses themselves, you might be able to change the lenses. That has to do with like interpretive frameworks and like changing your interpretive frameworks in a way that serves you. I remember once reading this like new age horoscope weird book called Pronoia, but the idea was, it was a cool message. Pronoia is the antidote to paranoia. So paranoia is you connect the dots and everything is against you is your conclusion. Pronoia is you connect the dots and everything is serving you. Which interpretation would you choose? You know? And so, do we have agency over that interpretation? There's certainly predisposition. You know, past trauma can make you look at everything that's happening in the future as dangerous, right? Trauma makes the past overdetermine the present and conjure up a future that becomes identified with death or chaos, right? David Lenson says that bad trips on drugs are just exaggerated versions of the same thing, right? A pre-existing fear you had about the experience overdetermines the effects of the drug and conjures up a future of, oh, I'm going crazy or I'm going to die. It's just an amplified exaggeration of what we do when we're already anxious, which is formed by past experiences. But you can change those past experiences by changing your interpretive frameworks. One of my most popular videos was, can you change the past? And the idea was, epigenetics has to do with the effects that experiences have on your physiology. Experience shapes biology. But let's say you do an MDMA therapy session,
Sorry, signed up for 2 years. I did hypnotherapy
Okay.
every week.
Great.
It does, it reframes.
Great. So there's an organization called the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, which just got granted phase 3 clinical trials, designated breakthrough therapy using MDMA to help people with treatment-resistant PTSD.
Is this MAPS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people who've been at war and are not responding to medication. So what they do, this particular technology, puts people in what they call the optimal arousal zone. So it quiets the amygdala, which is the fear response, which is trying to protect you from impending doom, quiets that while boosting activity in the frontal cortex, so you can think rationally about things. Then it simultaneously engages you, because it's a methamphetamine, while simultaneously making you feel relaxed as you're more engaged. They call that the Goldilocks. It's just like planet Earth, just close enough to the sun, not too much. And that optimal arousal zone is great for cognitive reframing. It's like you can think back about the experience. You can be like, okay, that sucked, but that was one isolated experience. It doesn't condemn me to have future experiences like that. And that sort of realignment and cognitive reframing and repatterning of the memory changes the past experience in the sense that it changes the physiological effects that it's having in your present moment. So maybe you're not getting the cortisol anymore, you're not getting the anxiety secreting chemicals anymore, and so you're effectively cured. So I would say that changing those interpretive frameworks and exercising agency over that and realizing that you can do that is the best intervention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When we first met, I was helping you to become a little bit more known on social media in the
Oh.
market.
Oh yeah. Are you Sarah?
I'm Sarah.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Nice to meet you in person.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes.
So, question. After 15 years of working on social media, I noticed that there was something going on. I was like, fuck, I'm coming from hell.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening? Why is everybody more into creating content out of their lives, trying to uplift their egos and make themselves look like they're perfect out there, while they're not taking care of their lives, their health, their family, their kids, all of these things.
Yeah.
We're spending money on, looking good for Instagram. We're spending our lives going to places that probably wouldn't even want to go there,
Yeah.
but somebody else went.
Yeah.
And we want to be there because of the freaking picture. So what's your perception towards the negative impact that social media has done on us as human beings? And how would you transform influencers into impactors?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, we're social beings that in order to survive, if you go back to when we lived in small groups in the savannas of Africa 100,000 years ago, we lived in these small packs, and survival required being included in the group. Because if you were ostracized from the group, you were alone and the lion ate you. So you realize that we have a lineage that requires us to be liked to survive. And that ancient wiring plays out with something as trivial as obsessing over likes on Instagram. It's like, if you're not accepted or liked, you risk being socially pushed aside. And by the way, social isolation is the quickest way to go mad. Human beings cannot live alone. They go crazy, right? Consciousness only exists through the mutual mental modeling of us against other people. We mirror each other constantly, right? It's like that whole Cooley line, I am not who I think I am not who you think I am who I think you think I am. Right? I make a model of what your consciousness is, and then I can make a model of what your consciousness is modeling of me is, and then I try to be that person or control who I think you think I am. We do that all the time. That mutual self-modeling and mirroring is the essence. The thing is, I don't want to use a nasty word, but it's metastasized with social media. It's like, again, tools and technologies amplify pre-existing patterns and belief systems that we have. So it's like, we used to try to be liked among the 20 or so in our little tribe to protect ourselves from the lion at night. And being liked was important. Being cooperative with the group was important, because otherwise you got to, pushed aside. So now we act compulsively with social media, but it comes from that same place. So the solution, obviously, is just awareness, right? Like, we can learn. Because we can learn, now we have new information, we can watch our own actions and modify those actions. Which is not to say that these tools aren't designed to create compulsive behavior rather than thoughtful behavior. They are, because there's a business model attached to that. And I understand, like, we have a capitalist system, business models, monetization is part of the game. But there seems to be an awakening now in Silicon Valley. I mean, the conversation is being had. We all know Tristan Harris and all these other people who are having an awakening. And I think that's how it works, right? We're like innovative and creative, and we build these marvelous tools, and we get really excited, and then we use them in a shitty way for a little while, but then we course correct. And I think we're course correcting, I'm an optimist. If you look at the long-term trends, you look at the macro trends, there's always improvement. Even when there's not, there is, the more you zoom out. So I think it's going to be okay.
I dedicate this question to my brother, I was hoping to bring him here today, but he suffers from depression and anxiety, and he was too crippled, like, to kind of.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Now, my question more is for you is your encounters with physical practices to induce states, and about that strange realm of combination, I guess different traditions.
Sure.
Psychedelic versus the physical.
Embodiment. Yeah, no, embodiment is huge. One of my favorite places to hang out, especially in the summer, is Amsterdam. And it's because you don't even think it, but your baseline modality is movement on bicycle all day, every day, to do anything from the most insignificant errand to a full day adventure. My friend calls it balance in motion, or the unbalancing axis. It's like, if you move, you're good. If you stop moving, it falls, The best flow states ever are cannabis in combination. Well, my friend said 20 minutes of aerobic exercise, a shot of espresso, and a joint. But I would add to that motion. Like motion, particularly human-propelled motion. But dude, like riding a bicycle, like some of the greatest experiences of my life have been riding bikes in Amsterdam with my friends, while slightly smiley. Copenhagen, we had a similar experience. I had an experience in South Africa last year, which was astonishing because we were on the back of the safari truck, sunset golden hour, in motion, in an omnidirectional way too, because those things go off the road. So it's not even like you're tied to the pattern of the road. You're going in every and any direction. And I guess that's not fully embodied, but at least you're in motion. And it was just sublime. Also because the changing landscape and the changing speed at which the world comes at you keeps you tethered to the moment and doesn't let you spiral off into your own thoughts, especially if you're prone to anxiety. And so that's a huge one too. Thanks for your question, man. Thank you. And just very quickly, I want to extend a special thank you to all of you guys for being here tonight. You guys have been wonderful. And a special thanks to my partners on the tour, Mr. Ben Jacobson, who's been over there making sure that all the video stuff works. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you. And of course, Josh Dawson and Ingrid. Thank you, guys. You've been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to our AV team for hustling last minute. We were having crazy technical difficulties earlier. Like crazy, like Murphy's Law, like all this shit wasn't working, the projector wasn't working. I was nearly, and the thing is, I could do a lecture without the videos, but I feel like the videos are the work, and I just fill the space between with my live remarks, but I want to be able to show you what I do. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the same. So thank you guys for hustling to make that work. And thank you to the city of Miami, the police department for providing the security as well. And by the way, the reason for that is a slight, we did this tour in Canada. We didn't need metal detectors in Canada because in Canada, people don't have guns, right? America is weird like that. It's messed up, man. You know, so that's why we had the extra line. So sorry about that, but wanted to keep you guys all safe, right? Thank you, everybody.